All right. Hello, hello, hello. My name's Andrea, or Drea for short. Today is Saturday, January 9th, 2021, and this is my 2021 Make Your Goals video. If you're joining me live here on YouTube, welcome. And if you're watching the replay a little bit later, welcome as always. Quick reminder, just at the beginning of the video, if you enjoy this video and like this type of content, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out a lot. And then second reminder, this is like our second time streaming on YouTube. And so I can't really see who's joining chat. So if you would like for me to know that you're here, definitely be sure to put something in the chat and let me know how you're doing, what you're working on, all of that good stuff. So yeah, this is my 2021 Make Your Goals video, and I kind of consider this to be the sequel to my 2020 year in review, which I did last week. So if you haven't seen that video, definitely be sure to check that out. I think it kind of gives a little bit of context to what my goal setting for 2021 looked like. But of course, you can just like watch this video and have a pretty good idea of what's going on. So yeah, like I said, my makes in 2020 really kind of inspired my goals for 2021 and how I like want to move forward on my journey. And I'm hoping that whatever I manage to accomplish in 2021 will inspire things for 2022 and on like that. So the way that I went about my goal setting, I decided to come up with different priorities to help me prioritize what I want to make, because it is kind of difficult. There's only 365 days in a year, limited amount of time, right? So I really kind of had to prioritize and be intentional about what I would like to make. So everything that I'm going to talk about today are things that I would like to make. I'm going into this with the expectation that I'm actually not going to be able to finish everything due to time constraints. And that's totally okay. You know, we just push those goals to 2022. And then I also want to mention that these goals aren't like fixed. You know, I think it's important with goal setting to adjust your expectations and adjust your goals as needed. Add goals, take goals away, things like that. So these are just kind of like my initial thoughts for 2021. So yeah, like I was saying earlier, I came up with priorities, actually 10 priorities, which is a lot. And then I kind of like came up with smaller goals within those priorities. So a lot of these are going to be like, I'm going to be working on concurrently rather than just like working my way down the list. And I'm going to talk a little bit towards the end of the video about kind of like how I plan on accomplishing these goals and holding myself accountable. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump into it. So my number one priority is finishing my whips that carried over from last year, from 2020. So I came into 2021 with 6 whips. A couple of them I might be kind of like setting aside for a little bit and moving them kind of to what I call my inactive whips list. So, you know, projects that I obviously haven't completed yet, but that I'm not actively working on in favor of kind of working on other projects. But most of these are projects that I'm really wanting to finish as soon as possible. So my first whip from 2020, that's actually very close to being done. I just finished all of like the crochet on it this morning, but I still need to weave in the ends and block it and things like that, is my Selene Cardigan by Leroo Crochet. This is a pattern test that I've been working on for the past couple of months now, and it is going to be due soon. So I'm glad that I'm really close to finishing this, and I'm hoping that I can get all the weaves woven in here shortly. And I'm not going to be talking too much about my whips today, just because I like to kind of save the more detailed conversations for my podcast. But this is kind of just to get a general idea of what I'm working on. Ooh, I like it. Does it have pockets? Yes, it actually does have pockets. Let me see if I can show. yeah, it has pockets. I got the pockets on this morning. So that's really the main reason why I wanted to test this cardigan, is because it has pockets. So that is definitely very exciting. Okay, so then the next whip that I have going into 2021, that's also relatively close to being finished. It just kind of seems like a long road, is my Soundwave shawl. So this is the Soundwave shawl by Stephanie Urban. And as you can see, it's huge. And so it's taking a while to get from row to row, but I'm pretty close to being done. So I just want to go ahead and knock it out. And my yarn is like, still need to learn better yarn management skills, but we're getting there. 1 second. It's caught on something. Okay, we're just gonna put this back over here just for the sake of time. And now the yarn's caught on my button. This is real life, folks. This is what happens when you do stuff live. All right, my next whip is my traveling knit afghan, designed by various designers, but it was being hosted by Lion Brand Yarn and Two of Wands as like a 2020 year-long make-along. Obviously, 2020 is over now, so the make-along is over now, but this is really my first knit project, so I really kind of wanted to see this through and like learn as many skills as I can from this project. But yeah, so far I have 7 squares completed out of 24. So we're making progress, but still quite a ways to go on that one, especially since I'm not the world's speediest knitter right now. And then the next 2 whips that I have are actually not like crochet or knitting. And I'm thinking about moving these to my like inactive whips pile that I was talking about earlier. But these are some cross stitch pieces that I worked on. So I started, is this upside down? It's not. Okay. This is the right side up. So I started cross stitching right after Thanksgiving. And for the most part, I do really enjoy it. But right now I'm kind of just not feeling it. I think it's mostly just because I really want to focus on getting like my crochet and knitting projects done. And I also got kind of stuck on these. But yeah, this one is a Powa, I think is how you say it, shells pattern. It's going to be really nice, like lots of like blues and greens and purples. And then this one is supposed to be like an orange half, but I messed up, so I'm going to need to start over on this one. So yeah, these are probably going to be set aside for a little bit in favor of working on other things, but I do plan on picking them back up eventually. All right, and then my last whip that I want to do something about is my lattice lace dress. So I've actually decided that I'm going to frog this, just because, I don't know, I would rather use the yarn for something else. I'm not really feeling it anymore. And I just feel like the moment has kind of passed for this whip, you know, and I don't want it to continue to take up like physical space and mental space. I kind of just want to frog it and move on. So it's definitely on my goal list to go ahead and frog this and figure out what else I want to use the yarn for. So yeah, those are my whips from 2020 that I really want to complete in 2021. So that is priority number 1, finishing those whips. Excuse me. Priority number 2 is working on my temperature blanket. So yeah, I'm going to spare you all the details on the temperature blanket until the podcast because it's kind of a lot and I don't want this video to be too long, but I am making a temperature blanket this year and this is what I have so far. So I have these 2 squares and then I have several squares that I've made, but I've not yet attached the blanket. And the reason why things are like this, long story short, is that I didn't have some of the colors that I needed. So I needed to wait on that. But yeah, I'm really going to try my best to like keep up with the temperature blanket and do a square per day. So like I'm still doing like a square per day pace. It's just I'm doing them out of order due to that yarn issue. So I'm hoping to have, for the most part, keep up with it. But if I do fall behind on it, to have like maybe like a weekend where I just catch up on it. So that is how my temperature blanket is going so far. So that is priority number 2. Priority number 3 is actually another temperature blanket that I'm working on. So I don't want to say too much about it right now because a lot of things are kind of like still in the works and still in testing. But I think I can say that it's more of like a monthly temperature blanket rather than a daily temperature blanket. And it's going to be a make-along. And it's going to be hosted on a new blog called The Crafting Collective. So The Crafting Collective was created by Christy of Inchworm Crafts and Chloe of Libertine Crochet over on Instagram. And so the blog is actually launching very, very soon. If you're not watching this live, it's probably going to be up by the time you see this. So that's very exciting. So definitely be on the lookout for that and more details about that particular blanket, because I don't want to say too much about it right now. But yeah, that is priority number 3 to make sure that I get that blanket done as well. So more to come on that one for sure. All right, priority number 4 are my resources. So if you're kind of new to my space, my whole kind of like deal, shtick, whatever you want to call it, is helping other crocheters like improve their skills, kind of like empowering them and inspiring them. Part of the way that I do that is through doing videos like this and like my podcast and like talking about like the projects that I make and like the things that I've learned from those projects. And then another part of it is creating like resources. So the first resource that I made was released back in July of 2020, and that was called the Crochet Skill Level Quiz. So if you haven't gotten that yet, I'll have it linked down below in the description. But so first goal under like this resources heading is I wanted to make like a slight clarification on it. It's not something that's going to like affect the results, but I'm just always like looking for ways to improve things. And I realized that the way that I had something phrased could be taken multiple ways. So I'm going to make a slight clarification on that. So that's the first goal under resources. And then the second resource that I'm really hoping to release this year is working title, the Crochet Pattern Skill Level Finder. So it's a very similar concept to the Crochet Skill Level Quiz, except it's for patterns, because something that a lot of people struggle with, especially designers, as they're trying to rate the difficulty of their pattern. So whether it's like a beginner pattern or intermediate or advanced, is like, how do you determine that? Because everybody kind of has different ideas of that. And there is some information on there. I know that like the industry standard is to use Craft Yarn Council, but I still find it to be very vague. And so I kind of wanted to make a resource to fill in some of those gaps. So I've been working on that resource for a very long time. Not consistently, it's been kind of off and on, but I'm really hoping to just kind of knock it out in 2021 because I think that it would help a lot of people. So that's priority number 4. Priority number 5 is knitting. So I really want to do more knitting in 2021. And the reason why is because when I was like going over my projects that I made in 2020, I did like a breakdown, like how many were crochet, how many were Tunisian crochet, how many were knit, and there were 0 completed knit projects. Like I mentioned earlier, I am working on the traveling knit Afghan, but since that's such a huge project, I wasn't able to finish it in 2020. And so it didn't count towards my total. So I'm hoping to fix that in 2021 and do more knit projects. And I have some specific projects in mind. So I would like to make a knit hat or multiple knit hats. And he doesn't watch these, so it's fine, but I think I'm going to make them for my dad. In Christmas 2019, I crocheted a couple of just like basic kind of hats for my dad, and he wears them all the time. He really appreciated them. And so I decided I should just make some knit ones because he'll wear them and he'll like them, and it'll be a good chance for me to practice those skills. So I want to make a knit hat. That's a great idea. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think so too. I think that he'll really like them. And then I also want to make some knit socks, and I already have the yarn for the socks. I wanted to show you. So this is a sock set that I got in the mail this week by Leroo Crochet. And I guess this sock set is called Coffee in the Fall. So I think that this full-size skein colorway is Fall Fetty, and then the mini skein is Coffee Please, I think is what it's called. And this is interesting because most socks are made out of a wool nylon blend. Wool for like the softness, and then nylon gives it like some elasticity and durability since you're going to be wearing them on your feet, and it gives them a lot of wear and tear, which is great. But there are some people that, are allergic to wool and things like that. And so this is actually like a plant-based alternative sock yarn for people who are allergic to wool or like don't want to use wool for another reason. So this yarn is 55% bamboo, 24% cotton, and 21% elastic. And the interesting thing is that you can definitely like tell the elastic. I should get closer to the camera. If I like pull on it, it bounces back pretty well. I don't think the camera is doing it justice, but I'm really excited to use this yarn. I'm really interested to see how it turns out. So yeah, want to knit a pair of socks. And then another thing that I would like to knit is a shawl. And then I would also like to knit a garment, whether that be like a sweater or a cardigan or a tee. So if you have any recommendations for hats, socks, shawls, or garment patterns for me, definitely let me know. I do have some patterns in mind for some of these, but not all of them. So I am open to any recommendations that you have for those, and like any other kind of like skills that I mentioned later in the video that I don't have projects in mind for. I would love to hear your recommendations for those. So that is priority number 5, more knitting. Priority number 6 is learning new crochet skills, and then kind of / learning new crochet skills / scoring advanced on my crochet skill level quiz. So my crochet skill level quiz that I was talking about earlier, I took it as well. And right now I'm 1 point away from advanced. So I kind of just need to like clean some things up, and then I will be in that advanced level. Hey, Kendra, how are you doing? Thanks for coming. So that is definitely a goal of mine in 2020. And so I've kind of like gone. So the first skill that I have down is mosaic. That's a color work technique. I think it involves like chain stitches and double crochet and single crochet. I'm not entirely sure the mechanics of it, but it looks really cool and kind of like geometric. And so that's definitely something that I've been wanting to learn for a while. Second skill is crochet cables. That one's been on the list for a while. So I'm really hoping to learn that this year. Third skill is something that I already kind of know how to do, but something that I would like to get more comfortable with is Fair Isle color work. So Fair Isle color work, I believe, is when you're floating the yarn, like you're floating the color that you're not using behind the work instead of like working over it or cutting the yarn. So that is something that I've done with Tunisian crochet, but I haven't done it with standard crochet yet. And I don't imagine that they would be too different from each other, but it is something that I would like to brush up on a little bit. My next skill is reading stitch diagrams or crochet charts. I think I talked about this a little bit last week, but I am much more comfortable reading the written instructions rather than the chart patterns or like the stitch diagrams. And so that's something that I'm hoping to brush up on this year as well. Next skill are the chainless foundation stitches. That's something that I already know how to do, but I'm so slow at it. I'm so slow at foundation stitches. I'm talking about like foundation single crochet or half double crochet or double crochet, where you're kind of creating chain and your stitch at the same time instead of working your chain and then working your first row in the chain stitch. I find that for like longer foundation rows, like 100 stitches or 200 stitches, using the like chainless foundation stitches is a little quicker. But for something that's just like 20 or 50 stitches, I just still go ahead and chain and then work the stitches in the starting chain, because I find that that's quicker for me. So I'm hoping to get to the point where doing those chainless foundation stitches is a little bit more second nature to me, where I don't have to think about it as much. I can kind of like zone out, watch TV, and it's not like an inconvenience the way that it feels right now. So that's something that I'm definitely hoping to brush up on. Next skill is working with novelty yarns. So novelty yarns are things that kind of like have a, I guess, non-traditional texture. So things like the velvet yarn or furs, or even like materials that aren't kind of like in a realm of fibers. Like, I know it's kind of a thing right now to make like plastic yarn out of like your old shopping bags. So that's something that I've been thinking about. And just kind of like other like non-traditional fibers. So that's not something that I have a ton of experience in. And it's mostly by choice. Sometimes I don't really like the look of a lot of those things, but I still would like to have the skills, because part of what makes working with novelty yarns a little bit more challenging than working with like a regular yarn is the fact that it's a little bit more difficult to see your stitches. And so I would kind of like to have that skill set where I'm able to know where my stitches are no matter what the fiber or material is. So that's something that I'm hoping to work toward this year as well. And then next skill I'd like to learn or improve are chainless starting and standing stitches. So this is, I'm told that those are very similar to the foundation stitches. Essentially, the, I guess, standard way to do things is that if you're changing rows or changing rounds, to do like a starting chain, so like a chain 1 or a chain 2 or a chain 3, so that you are at the same height of the next stitch that you're wanting to work. But another way to get around that is to do a chainless starting or standing stitch. So it's basically like an extended stitch. So you would do like an extended single crochet or an extended double crochet. And that's something that I've done before, but it's not really too common, I don't think. So that's something that I'm definitely kind of wanting to seek out and improve, and then maybe even like incorporate into some of my own designs. And then the last skill that I have on here is interlocking crochet. So interlocking crochet is another color work technique. I think it involves like chain stitches again. It's very similar to mosaic crochet, to the point where the terms interlocking and mosaic are kind of used interchangeably. But my understanding is that those are two different techniques. And so that's something that I would like to learn this year as well. So if you were counting, that is 8 different crochet skills that I would like to learn. So if you have any recommendations for projects that fall, or I guess use one of those 8 skills, or even like multiple skills in one project, that would be even better. Definitely send them my way. I do have projects in mind for some of these, but not necessarily all of them. And yeah, that is something that I'm hoping to do. And really just doing any one of these projects will be enough to boost me to that advanced skill level. But obviously I want to go beyond that and learn as many things as I can. So that is priority number 6, learning new crochet skills. All right, get some water. Water bottle's loud today. All right. Priority number 7 is kind of my video content, my lives, basically what I'm doing right now at this very moment. So I started this YouTube channel in September of 2020, and it's really been good for me. I've had like a lot of like mental health benefits from doing it. I really love talking to people and sharing things. And I'm finding that video content is the best way to express myself more so than like writing or like posting on Instagram or things like that. I really just kind of like talking and getting the stuff out there. And so that's definitely something that I want to continue in 2021 and grow, because I am doing this for myself and like my mental health and kind of like socialization. But, you know, I still want people to actually enjoy the videos and get something from them, learn new things, and I want new people to find them. So in terms of YouTube, I have kind of set some goals that I would like to have met by the end of the year. I guess when you're goal setting, it's good to have something measurable. And this is really the only goal on this list where I could like look at analytics and numbers and things like that and try to set goals based on those analytics. And I went back and forth on whether I should mention those exact goals in this video. I know a lot of people, when they set goals like this, they like to keep it to themselves. But I decided that I am going to go ahead and tell you, not so much for accountability, because I don't really have too much control over how this is going to go. Because all that I can do on my end is be consistent and make good content. And I will try to do that. But at the end of the day, I can't like force somebody to subscribe to my channel. I can't force somebody to watch a video all the way through. That's not how this works. So I've set this goal, but I acknowledge that if I don't meet it, it's not necessarily my fault. Like, I'm going to do everything in my power to meet the goal, but there's only so much you can do. So all that being said, I did set a goal for subscribers. So by the end of 2021, I would like to have 350 subscribers on the channel. And the way that I came to that is I basically looked at how many subscribers I gained between like September and December, and kind of like did a proportion to see if I was growing at the same, like if I got this many subscribers in 4 months, how many subscribers would I get in a year, and then added that to how many subscribers I already had. And then it came out to like 347 or something like that. So I just rounded it up to 350 because I have a thing with multiples of 5. So yeah, 350 subscribers by the end of 2021. I'm currently at 80, which is awesome. And my next big goal is to be at 100 subscribers, because I'm going to have a giveaway at 100 subscribers. And 100 is such like a nice, neat number. So that's my next goal. So if you'd like to help me get there, definitely be sure to subscribe to my channel. I know that I like say that a lot and it might get kind of annoying after a while, but that is how YouTube recognizes that my videos are good and starts showing them to other people. So if you'd like to help me reach that goal, I definitely would appreciate it. And then another kind of analytic that YouTube kind of looks at a lot is watch hours. So that's basically the total amount of time that people spend watching your video. So let's see. I don't remember how many I have right now. It's close to 200. I'm trying to like pull it up. I should have written this down before. Sorry. Okay, yeah, so I'm at 180 watch hours right now. So by the end of the year, I would like to be at 725. And I came to that number the same way that I came up with a subscriber number. So that definitely seems feasible. And honestly, like my videos are all around an hour long anyway. So if you like sit and watch the video from beginning to end, that's 1 watch hour. So I definitely do think that's feasible. But again, I can't control people's behavior. And then the next goal that I set were the total number of views by the end of the year, which again, I should have written down what I have right now, but I think it's approaching 800. So by the end of the year, I'm hoping to have 3,150 views total. So that's like all the views on my channel added up together would be 3,150. So we'll see how that goes. And then this is kind of just a bonus. Views per video would be 225 views per video. So that's also kind of like a stretch. So I'm really hoping to see like some growth in the YouTube channel this year. But if not, again, that's fine. These are just goals that I set for myself for the sake of setting goals. So I'm really excited to see what happens by the end of the year. And then kind of like another aspect of the video content is Instagram lives. So I originally started doing the podcast and everything as an Instagram live, and then I would upload it here on YouTube. But there's kind of like a lot of extra steps that's associated with like getting a video off of Instagram and then like, I guess, preparing it to be uploaded to YouTube. And so it basically took my entire weekend to do that, between like actually doing the live and then getting it uploaded to YouTube. So that's why we're streaming directly on YouTube these days, because it just cuts out a lot of those extra steps. And I'm really grateful to those of y'all who kind of followed me over here. I definitely really appreciate it. I know going to another platform can be a little bit inconvenient, but this is really the only way that I could still like continue to do this and like not completely lose my mind. So thank you for making that like a worthwhile decision for me. Anyway, all that being said, I do still want to continue doing lives on Instagram from time to time, at least once a month. So on the 23rd, January 23rd, I think I'm going to be doing like a crochet with me on Instagram. And I think I'm going to be catching up on my temperature blanket, because like I said earlier, I'm a few days behind. So that is what we're going to be doing on the 23rd. And then I'm going to try to do at least 1 or 2 Instagram lives in February, so on and so forth. So definitely be on the lookout for that. That's something that I want to keep doing. And then another aspect of this category is I would really like to start streaming on Twitch this year. So Twitch is a streaming platform that's kind of traditionally associated with gaming. But there's a whole kind of like crafting community over there. There are streamers that stream crochet, obviously, and knitting and cross stitch. And that's actually kind of like what inspired me to get into cross stitch and just all sorts of things. And the way that their platform is set up and like the kind of things that it's compatible with, it's just a little bit more robust than YouTube and then certainly Instagram. So I think that that's like a good next step for me, especially since I'm really kind of focusing on like doing things live. It's going to be a while if I ever decide to start doing like more produced videos where like I pre-record them and edit them and all of that. That's something I'd like to start doing eventually, but I don't know when I'm going to have like the bandwidth to be able to do that. Plus, I really enjoy doing lives because like I enjoy like this real-time interaction. So it just seems like Twitch is like a natural next step towards doing that. So I don't know when that's going to happen. I haven't put a timeline on it. But that's something that I'm really looking forward to. Let's see. Are you going to upload your crochet with me to YouTube? I don't have IG. I will try. So I think I should be able to upload it to YouTube. Because I have in the past. I guess my only concern is, Instagram has like a streaming limit of 4 hours. And so with that in mind, I was planning on streaming a little past my usual hour, just to kind of like see how that would go. And so in that case, I'm not sure if I would have like enough space on my phone to be able to upload the video to YouTube. But I will try. That's something that I will try if I keep it short, or maybe I'll split it up. I don't know. But yeah, I can go ahead and upload those to YouTube. I'll just make sure that I clear my phone space out a little bit. Water. All right. And then the last thing in this category is kind of just like making investments in like equipment and things like that. Y'all can't see what's behind the scenes, but the setup that I have right now is very kind of DIY. So like I'm on my laptop and like my tripod is on my coffee table. And then I have a ring light, which is clipped onto my kitchen scale because my coffee table is too thick for the ring light to clamp around the coffee table. So just things like that. And this setup works really well for now, but if I start like doing this more often and kind of like incorporating other elements into it, it could get a little bit tricky. So that's something that's just kind of like a very broad goal to kind of have like a more professional setup eventually. So yeah, those are all of my kind of like streaming and video content goals. And that was priority number 7, if we're keeping up. All right, priority number 8 is to work on designs and tutorials for those designs. So 4 projects that fall under this. The first one is I want to redesign and re-release my brick house blanket, which is this. It's a filet crochet pattern, and it was the first pattern that I ever released about a year ago. So I've learned a lot about like pattern design and like pattern writing and things that you can do to make your patterns a little bit easier to follow since I released this. Plus, I've rebranded since I released this. I used to go by something other than DREA'S Hook, and so I've been wanting to kind of like pull that pattern down for a while and like change all of the branding and everything. And another thing, is that I want to use a different yarn. So this sample is made with Hobby Lobby. I love this yarn, and it's a really good yarn, but you know, there's been some things that have happened with Hobby Lobby recently that makes me not want to continue to shop there and not want to like indirectly promote them by using my yarn in their patterns. I realize that a lot of it is access issues. Like I know when I was first learning how to crochet when I was a teenager, Hobby Lobby was like the only craft store in like a 30-mile radius. And so that's where I shopped. So I'm not in the business of like judging people for where they shop, but just as my like personal opinion, I would like to use a different yarn. Plus, I want to make a bigger sample because like this isn't even baby blanket size. Like I just made it large enough to get a picture of it and then just like moved on. So lots of updates to come for the brick house blanket. Thank you. I would like to crochet along with you. Thank you. Thank you. I always have a lot of fun with those crochet alongs, crochet with me's, and I really enjoy I guess like watching other creators. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to do it as well. And so I'm glad that people actually enjoy it as much as I do. So yeah, first goal is to redesign and re-release the brick house blanket. Second goal is what I'm calling my geometric etc., which is all scattered down here. So the geometric etc. is a series of coasters, face scrubbies, washcloths, pot holders, and placemats that are in different shapes. So there's like a hexagon and a circle and a square. So these are the coasters, if I can hold them all up at the same time. Coasters, and then the face scrubbies are a little smaller. And then I have a sample of a circular dishcloth. So I've been working on this pattern forever. Like I'm pretty sure we're getting close to a year of me working on this pattern. And I don't know, like with everything that happened in 2020, like I just haven't really felt inspired to design. I just haven't had like the mental energy for it, and like that's fine. I've accepted that. I'm not upset about it, but I'm ready to like get this out there. And part of the reason why I was kind of like held up on it is because I was like putting pressure on myself to release all of these things at the same time. But I realized I could just release them one by one. So I think I'm going to start with the hexagon coaster, and then we're just going to work our way down the list. So that is my second goal under this category, is to release as many of the geometric, etc. patterns as possible. Third goal, I'll group these together. I have two other designs that I've kind of started, but not really. First one are brick house market bags. So they would be using the same pattern as the brick house blanket. And I also have brick house pillows. And then the second one is a basket set that you could use to hold your coasters or your face scrubbies or whatever. So those are designs that I have started. I've like made gauge swatches for them and stuff. I just haven't had time or like made time to bring those designs further. So those are the 4 designs that I'm hoping to release in 2021. And then after that, I'm not sure how many, like how much I'm going to focus on design, because I have ideas for other designs, but I've realized over the past few months that designing probably isn't my calling. It's something that I enjoy, but I'm never going to be one of those people that's able to crank out like 4 patterns a month. Like that's just not who I am. I strongly prefer kind of like doing more of like the video stuff, making resources. And that's why like the resources and the videos were higher priority on my list than making the designs. So we'll see. I might change my mind, you know. There's room for flexibility here. But yeah, as of right now, those are the only designs that I have plans to release this year. We'll see if they get released this year. 9th priority is stash busting. So if you saw my 2020 year in review, you know that this was also a goal for last year and it did not go well. So we're going to be a little bit more intentional about this year. And there are kind of like 3 sub goals or like 3 steps that go into this. First goal is to make a inventory of my yarn. I really want to have an idea of exactly how much yarn that I have, because I have no idea at this point. How much yarn that I have. So how much yarn that I have, and kind of like go through and assign the yarn to like different projects. And if it's yarn that I can't use for a project, maybe thinking about destashing it or like throwing it in a giveaway or something. So that is the first goal, to like acquaint myself with how much yarn I actually have and what it is and what it could be used for. Second goal is to end 2021 with less yarn that I started with. So that's kind of where the yarn inventory comes into play, knowing how much yarn that I have, so that this time next year I can compare and see if I have more yarn or the same amount of yarn or less yarn. I would really like to have less yarn. And then the third goal is to be intentional about yarn purchases. This is something that I'm decent at already, but I'd like to get a little bit better at. I really try my best to only buy yarn if I have a project in mind for it. So again, that's something that I'm really good about already, but I have had a couple of like, I'm just going to buy this yarn because I like it and it's pretty and it's limited edition and I want it. And then another thing that I've kind of started doing lately is if I see like a yarn dyer have like an update that I'm interested in, I will like search high and low to find a pattern so that I can justify buying yarn. Even though I already have like so many patterns that I'm wanting to make, so many patterns that I'm actively working on, I will like spend like an hour or two just like scrolling through Instagram, trying to find a pattern that I can use so that I can justify having yarn. So we're going to try not to do that anymore. I just did it like last week, but we're going to try not to do that anymore. And we'll see how that goes. And hopefully if I'm doing all of those things, my stash will come down a little bit. All right. And then priority number 10, this is our last priority, and it's definitely at the bottom of the list, is to make more seasonal makes. I feel like I kind of missed out this year. You know, in like September, October, everybody was making pumpkins. And then in like November, December, everybody was making like Christmas tree skirts and stockings and ornaments and things like that. But I felt like I didn't really have room to take on more projects when I already had so many ongoing WIPs. And so I didn't really get to make any seasonal makes. And I definitely feel like I kind of missed out because in 2019, I made 2 pumpkins and then I made like 2 candy corn. One of them was more along the lines of an amigurumi and then one of them was more like a pillow. But yeah, I had like fall seasonal makes that I made in 2019 and I loved it. And so I'm regretting that I didn't do that in 2020. So that is why it is on the list this year. But it is kind of low priority just because I have like so many other goals that I'm wanting to achieve this year. But I'm really hoping to kind of do like some planning and make sure that once like the fall and like the winter roll around, that I don't have too many WIPs going on to where I can take some time to like make some of these more seasonal things. So yeah, those were my 10 priorities. That is when you break it down to like all like the little bullet points that I talked about, that is 35 goals. 35. So I acknowledge that I may have bitten off a little bit more than I can chew. But again, these are things that I would like to do, not things that I have to do. If I decide that I want to add things to the list, God forbid, I really don't need to add anything else to this list. Or if I want to take things from the list, or if I want to adjust things, I'm giving myself the freedom to do that. But the list as it stands right now is 35. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. It's a lot. It's a lot. When I was planning for this video, I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Why am I setting myself up like this? But we're just going to try to knock out as many as we can. And I'm curious if you'd like to let me know, how many goals have you set for 2021? Maker goals. I hope it's less than 35. I hope that you aren't as ambitious as I am. Ambitious is good, but this might be borderline ridiculous. So I'm curious, how many goals did you set for 2021? All right. So the last thing that I kind of wanted to talk about is, I just listed out all of these goals. So I wanted to talk about how I plan to achieve as many of these goals as possible. So one part of it was prioritizing them. Like I said at the beginning, that will kind of help me focus and kind of like plan the order in which I'm going to do my projects. So the top 3 priorities were to finish my 2020 WIPs and work on my 2 temperature blankets. So those are things that I'm already like actively working on. I try to keep up with the daily temperature blanket daily, and then the other blanket is monthly, so I don't have to work on that constantly, but those are things that I'm working on concurrently. So I'm going to continue on with that and working on those as needed. The next priority that was under that was resources. And when I was initially making all these goals, I had resources like further down on the list, but then I realized like, no, I need to bump them up because they have been lingering forever and I just need to go ahead and get them done. And I actually count the resources as like unofficial WIPs. So even though they're not like a crochet or like a knitting project or anything like that, I still count them as a WIP because they're related to the fiber arts and it's something that I do as part of my whole content plan, whatever you want to call it. Hi, Shanice. Only 3 goals. That's probably smart. That's smart. Imagine only having 3 goals instead of 35. Can't relate. Anyway. So yeah, the resources are going to be worked on concurrently with everything else once I kind of get my bearings on like some of these other WIPs that I have going on. And then once I kind of get my list of WIPs done, or even like just somewhat done, I'm going to start on working on some of those knit projects that I talked about. So I really want to try to stay between 3 and 5 whips because I'm definitely not like a monogamous maker. I get really, really bored if I'm just working on one project from start to finish. And so I do like to switch things up. But lately I've been kind of like in the 6 to 8 whip range, and it's a little bit too much. And so like I'm hoping to cut it down to 3 to 5. Okay, I don't know if y'all were affected by that, but I just saw that we lost the picture for a little bit. So I hope that didn't mess up the video. Sometimes my Wi-Fi is a little bit weird, so I'm hoping that we didn't see that. All right. More probably as I go along. LOL. Yeah, and you know, that's the beautiful thing about goal setting. You can change them anytime you want. You can add things, you can remove things. So yeah, we'll see how we're able to get through these goals for sure. So yeah, trying to stay between 3 and 5 whips. So I'm really going to try to be good about like, if I have 5 whips, not to start anymore until I finish one. And you know, sometimes I really get the urge to like start new projects. And that's like why I'm in this position to begin with, because there was just like this one random weekend in like August or September where I was like, I'm going to start 4 new projects. And a lot of those I still haven't finished. So we're going to not do that. We're going to not do that. If I have 5 whips, I'm not going to start another one. Hopefully. We did, but it's okay. Okay. So when I watch this video back, I'm going to have to see how bad that was. All right, can still see you. Okay, that's good. Yeah, I think it was momentary, but that's always kind of scary because I don't know what I would do if I had to like come back on here again. So I need to get better Wi-Fi, honestly. And then as far as like kind of like the YouTube stuff goes, I talked about this a lot already, but I acknowledge that a lot of it more so has to do with like other people's behavior. And my whole kind of like philosophy with this is that I only do what I feel like I'm capable of doing. You know, like today, I almost canceled doing this video today because for most of the week, I really was not feeling well. And I didn't think that I was going to have the energy to be able to do this today. I'm so glad that I was, because I'm so glad to be doing the video now, but I'm never going to like force myself to do things that I don't want to do or that I feel like I don't have the energy to do. So a lot of this kind of depends on like how other areas of my life are going at that time. You know, that will depend on like how frequently I'm able to do things like this. So I still want to like grow and like make progress and all of that good stuff. But I'm still kind of like taking more of like a relaxed approach to this because this still is like mostly for fun. So that's kind of like that things. And like, as far as like adding new things, like getting a more professional setup and starting to stream on Twitch, again, that's going to be like when I feel that I have like the energy to be able to do all that stuff. So that's kind of more of like the vague goal as compared to like, I want to do this project and this project and this project. That's kind of more of like an ongoing type thing. And then similar thing for designing, pretty low priority. Like I said, I'm not really feeling it, but I am trying to get some of those designs out just because they are taking up like a lot of like mental space. And so I'm kind of just wanting to move on and get those out. And like, if I decide that like, I don't want to release those designs anymore, that's fine. I'll just use the yarn for something else. But I want to at least like have another go at it before I just like throw in the towel, you know? And then I'm hoping that through achieving all of these other goals, the stash busting will come naturally. I'm really going to try to be better about like shopping my stash and trying to not buy yarn as frequently. So that's kind of like an underlying goal that's related to all of these other goals. And then as far as making the seasonal makes, like I said earlier, I'm going to try to plan ahead and make sure that I have space to like in terms of like, I don't go over 5 whips when it comes time to like start making some of those seasonal things. And so I think an important thing when it comes to goal setting is having some sort of accountability. And, you know, obviously it's still January 9th, so 2021 is still kind of fresh. And so we're also kind of talking about goals and like New Year's resolutions. And like, that's why I like wanted to make this video now. But in a couple weeks, nobody's really going to be talking about the goals that they set at the beginning of this year. And they certainly aren't going to be talking about it in June or September. And so I really want to try to hold myself accountable to achieve a lot of these goals, because I can't do all of this in January. You know, I'm probably not even going to be able to do all of it in 2021. So an idea that I had is to, and this is kind of inspired by the fact that like at the end of 2020 and the beginning of 2021, there were a lot of like Instagram story templates going around where it's like, what were your 2021 maker goals? And like, I filled a couple of those out. And so like, I don't want to like just do that, but my idea is to kind of like have an accountability template at the beginning or end of each month, where it's like, what that kind of like forces you to reflect a little bit, right? So like, what did you do to start like working towards your goals? Do your goals need to be adjusted at all? And like kind of like short reflection questions like that. So I'm thinking that like I'll make the template and like fill it out every month, and then like I'll tag people only if they want to be tagged, and then it can kind of like circulate. But it's not so much about the circulation, it's more about making my goals public and things like that. And if anybody else finds that they need accountability, kind of like providing them that accountability and having that support system so that they can continue to move forward on their goals, and that they're always kind of, and so that the goals kind of like stay fresh in your mind. So that is something that I'm planning on doing as far as accountability. I might occasionally do updates on here, like in my videos. But I'll probably just stick to Instagram, just because through the podcast, you'll see like what projects that I'm working on. And I'll try to make that connection like, oh, I'm working on this project because I said that I wanted to knit a hat in 2021, for example. So it might be a little redundant to talk about it in the videos, but definitely on Instagram, I do want to make a little template on that. So if you have an Instagram and you follow me on there, it's at DREA'S Hook. So like at DREAS_HOOK. I think I have it linked in the description. So if you follow me on there, definitely keep an eye out for that. All right, so those were all of my goals and how I plan to accomplish them. So just a couple of announcements here at the video. Here at the end of the video, next Saturday, I'm going to do DREA'S Hook Podcast episode 10. It has been a very, very long time since we've had a podcast, well before the holidays. And so I'm really excited because I've like finished up a couple of things and like I've started some new things, and I'm just really excited to talk about all of that. So that's going to be on Saturday, January 16th here on YouTube. The time might be changing. I'm thinking about shifting these lives to 2 p.m. CST because I realized that I would like to eat lunch before doing these videos, and like with setting up and everything, it's kind of difficult to do that. So I might be shifting it to 2 or like 1:30, or I might keep it at 1. So I'm not sure what the time's going to be yet, but I will definitely put the update on Instagram. And then once again, friendly reminder to like the video and subscribe if you enjoyed it. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, especially if you were able to join me here live. I had a lot of fun talking to y'all as always. And if you're watching this at any time, whether it's like a day later, a week later, a month later, or a year later, I appreciate you. And I'm so glad that you enjoy this. And I hope that you are inspired to set your own goals for 2021 if you haven't already. And if you have, come up with the plan on how you're going to achieve those goals. And I would love to hear about what your goals are in the comments. So definitely be sure to do that if you would like to share. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go now. I'll see y'all next Saturday, January 16th at some point in the afternoon for episode 10 of the DREA'S podcast. Bye.